You ever feel like life is out of sync with what you know you deserve? You look around. Others smile, succeed, live in peace, while you're still grinding, still waiting. And the question sneaks in, why not me? You push harder. You visualize. You repeat affirmations. Yet something feels misaligned. Like there's a gap between what you expect and what shows up. That gap isn't proof of failure. It's evidence of reflection. Reality is a mirror. What you see is the echo of your inner broadcast. If the frequency inside you hums with fear, self-doubt, or wounds you never healed, the mirror has no choice but to send it back. Think about mirrors. They never lie, but they also never reveal the whole truth. They can't show the story behind your eyes. They don't reveal the memory stitched into your nervous system. They only give back the surface. And here's the trap. Most people keep scrubbing the mirror. They try to polish the glass, adjust the angle, change the frame. But the reflection never shifts until the projector does. The projector is you, your beliefs, your emotional frequency, your invisible script. The universe works like precision mechanics, not random chaos. It returns exactly what you emit. Every emotion, every hidden belief, every tolerated thought becomes a signal. That signal turns into the lens through which your life unfolds. This is the first unsettling truth. You don't see lack because the world is broken. You see lack because you're projecting it. You don't experience rejection because life hates you. You experience rejection because you've rehearsed it in your own head. And every time you resist the reflection, every time you fight the mirror, you strengthen the frequency that creates it. Here's the cliffhanger. What if the reflection isn't the enemy? What if it's just feedback? What if, instead of blaming the glass, you finally turned toward the projector and adjusted the signal? Because the mirror isn't broken. It's loyal. It's waiting for you to shift. Most people make the same mistake. They spend their lives polishing the mirror, not realizing the image comes from the projector inside them. They try to fix the outer world. New routines, better habits, endless hustle. They clean up their schedule, rewrite their goals, decorate their life. But no matter how much polish they apply, the reflection keeps exposing the same cracks. Because the mirror only reflects. It doesn't create. It doesn't decide. It obeys. The true power sits inside the projector, your inner world. The beliefs you carry. The stories you keep repeating to yourself when nobody's listening. The emotional wounds you've never allowed to heal. These are the reels inside the projector. And whatever film runs there, the mirror must replay. You think you're struggling with circumstances, but you're really struggling with alignment. The outer world isn't blocking you, it's echoing you. Every fear becomes a scene. Every doubt, a character. Every silent belief, a recurring plotline. Let's get real. If the inner projector hums with fear, the mirror flashes back situations that confirm your fear. If the projector loops self-doubt, the mirror reflects endless proof that you're not ready. If the reel is stitched with old pain, the mirror keeps replaying that pain in fresh disguises. It's not punishment. It's precision. And here's the haunting part. When you ignore the projector, you end up scrubbing the glass harder. You try to erase judgment, fix your image, prove your worth. But no matter how hard you clean, the same distorted film plays on repeat. This is the moment of realization. You don't need a shinier mirror. You need a new projection. Because reality isn't responding to your hustle. It's responding to your frequency. So the question becomes sharp, almost uncomfortable. What's actually running inside your projector right now? The answer explains every reflection you see. The universe doesn't guess. It doesn't improvise. It responds with surgical precision. Like a laser, it reflects exactly what you emit. Every thought carries a charge. Every emotion sends a ripple. Together, they form the broadcast you're transmitting into the field. And the field never ignores it. That's why your life feels patterned. The same struggles, the same lessons, the same emotional echoes. Not because you're cursed, but because the broadcast hasn't changed. This isn't mysticism. It's mechanics. Quantum physics meets spiritual truth. Cause and effect, but at the level of vibration. Think about it. If you feel abundant, you walk into the world differently. The mirror reflects opportunities. If you feel unworthy, your shoulders drop, your energy dims, and the mirror reflects closed doors. If you feel fear, even in silence, your frequency shouts it, and life responds like a perfect echo chamber. The cruel illusion is that people think the world is rejecting them. But the truth? The world is simply amplifying the inner signal. Every relationship, every conflict, every coincidence is tuned to your frequency. Life is not random, it's resonant. Here's the sharp edge. The reflection doesn't care what you want. It only cares what you broadcast. You can dream of joy, but if the inner projector hums with lack, the mirror delivers lack. You can beg for love, but if you radiate fear of rejection, the mirror hands you rejection in 1,000 subtle ways. And the more you resist it, the louder it grows. The field doesn't judge. It magnifies. That's the law. Vibration first, reflection second. So here's the choice that separates the ones who keep circling from the ones who break free. Do you keep polishing the mirror, hoping the image will shift? Or do you dare to change the film running in the projector? Because the reflection never lies. It only obeys. Look closely at your patterns. The things you fear most always seem to find you. The situations you try hardest to avoid somehow circle back. Different faces, different settings, same story. Why? Because the mirror is faithful. It plays what you've been rehearsing inside. You've whispered rejection in your head so many times. The mirror has no choice but to show it. You've carried the vibration of scarcity so long. Reality echoes it back in missed chances, closed doors, empty accounts. It's not cruelty. It's calibration. And here's the twist. The more you fight the reflection, the stronger it becomes. Every, "I don't want this," charges the vibration with emotion. Every complaint, every moment of blame, fuels the frequency that keeps the old broadcast alive. Imagine yelling at a mirror. You point, you protest, you demand change. But the face staring back doesn't shift, because it's not the glass you need to move. It's the expression you're carrying. This is why so many feel stuck. They polish their routines. They upgrade their habits. They double down on effort. Yet the reflection betrays them, because the projector hasn't changed. Here's the cliffhanger, the moment that unsettles. What if you could stop wrestling with the mirror? What if, instead of resisting the reflection, you shifted the broadcast? What if the version of you you're chasing already exists, hidden just behind the veil of your current frequency? Because the reflection is not here to punish. It's here to guide. The question is no longer, why does this keep happening to me? The real question is, what am I still projecting? Most people never dare to ask the real question. They spend their lives reacting to the reflection, never turning to see the source. They argue with circumstances. They blame environments. They think the world outside is the enemy. But the mirror is only doing its job. It's loyal. It reflects. So pause. Ask yourself, who is watching? Who is projecting this image I keep seeing? Because behind the mirror, there is always the observer. And the observer is you. Not your surface identity. Not the mask you wear. But the deeper you, the one broadcasting energy into the field every second. It's not your environment that's broken. It's your alignment that's off. And the proof is everywhere. You leave one toxic job, only to find another that feels the same. You end one painful relationship, only to repeat the wounds with someone new. You move cities, but the old emotions follow you like shadows. Different mirrors. Same projector. The problem isn't out there. It never was. Which means the solution isn't out there either. Here's the liberating truth. If the source is internal, then the power is also internal. You're not doomed to repeat the old movie. You can change the real. The mirror is not your punishment. It's your teacher. It asks one piercing question. Is this still what you want to project? And once you stop reacting to the reflection, once you turn toward the projector, the possibility of real transformation begins. Because the world is not against you. It's showing you you. Here's the paradox no one likes to admit. You can fix your external world 100 times. Change jobs, move cities, switch partners, and yet the same wounds keep returning. Different surface, same core. Why? Because repainting the walls doesn't cure the rot beneath them. Rearranging the mirror doesn't touch the projector. The real work isn't fixing the surface. It's tuning the signal. When your internal frequency harmonizes with the version of you who already holds peace, love, success, something extraordinary happens. The mirror bends. Reality begins to realign itself with your new broadcast. It doesn't happen like magic sparkles in the air. It happens in subtle shifts first. A door that was always closed suddenly cracks open. A person you thought would never notice you begins to respond. Coincidences, synchronicities, start weaving together like invisible threads, pulling you toward a new life. Not because you fought for it, not because you forced it, but because you became it. This is why effort often feels exhausting. When you're out of alignment, you're pushing against your own broadcast. But when the signal shifts, flow begins. Reality stops resisting you because it no longer needs to. It simply echoes your new identity. And here's the promise. Once you shift the projector, the reflection has no choice. It must follow. So ask yourself now, honestly, what signal am I broadcasting? Because the mirror is listening, and it always answers. The universe doesn't speak in words. It speaks in signals. And your signal is built from two elements, what you focus on and how you feel about it. Focus is not just mental. It's vibrational. Every time you hold attention on something, you charge it with energy. That charge becomes your broadcast. This is why affirmations sometimes fall flat. You can say, I am abundant 100 times a day. But if deep inside your nervous system is humming with fear, the field doesn't hear abundance. It hears desperation. The mirror doesn't read grammar. It reads coherence. Your brain has its own filter, the reticular activating system. It highlights what matches your emotional rehearsal. If every morning you wake up scanning for what's missing, your brain will faithfully deliver more proof of lack. Not because life is cruel, but because your focus trained it to. But here's the good news. You can retrain it. You can feed your focus new material. At first, it feels forced. You look for moments of peace, tiny sparks of beauty, fragments of alignment. A kind word, a soft breeze, a flash of clarity. At first, they seem small, almost irrelevant. But focus is a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger the signal becomes. And soon, the mirror responds. Synchronicities appear. Opportunities surface. Not because they weren't there before, but because you weren't tuned to see them. The truth is brutal in its simplicity. What you emotionally feed grows. What you starve dissolves. Every thought rehearsed with feeling is an investment in a future reflection. So the real question is, what have you been emotionally feeding? Because the mirror isn't judging. It's amplifying. There's a moment almost no one talks about. The in-between. The silent stretch after you've shifted inside, but before the outer mirror responds. At first, you feel powerful. You visualize. You affirm. You align. The energy builds. For days, maybe weeks, you walk in new frequency. But then, silence. The mirror doesn't change fast enough. Old patterns echo louder. Doubt creeps in. And suddenly, most people collapse back into their old broadcast. This space is what I call the quantum gap. In physics, there's the principle of delayed choice. The outcome isn't decided until observation locks it in. Until then, it hangs in limbo, undefined. That's what happens here. You've planted a new seed, but the soil hasn't sprouted yet. The field isn't saying no. It's buffering, recalibrating. But here's the test. Can you hold the new frequency even when nothing seems to reflect it yet? Because this gap is where most quit. They dig up the seed to check if it's growing. They lose trust. They cancel the signal. Yet those who hold steady, those who trust the unseen, become magnetic. Not because they're pretending, but because they're anchored. They no longer vibrate according to reflection. They vibrate from source. That's the shift. To stay loyal to your new identity when the mirror still shows the old one. To say, this is only the echo of who I used to be. I don't feed it anymore. And if you pass this test, reality has no choice but to catch up. The mirror bends. The reflection cracks. The new frequency takes form. The gap isn't punishment. It's preparation. So here you are. You've stepped into a new identity. You felt the shift. You've survived the gap. Now the question is, can you hold the signal? Because this is where the real mastery begins. Anyone can feel aligned for a moment. Anyone can vibrate high for a day. But the creators who bend reality are the ones who stay consistent. The ones who stay loyal to their new frequency, even when the old world keeps knocking on their door. This is the discipline of energy. Think about it. Every time you slip back into fear, every time you replay the old story in your mind, you're feeding the past. You're watering weeds instead of the garden you just planted. But every time you catch yourself, pause, and choose differently, you collapse an old circuit and wire in a new one. That choice, small as it feels, is rewriting your timeline. This is the practice. Notice the echo of the old self, but don't feed it. Let fear knock, but don't open the door. When lack whispers, shift your focus to even the smallest proof of wholeness. At first, the reflection barely moves. That's the test. But consistency builds momentum. Reality cannot ignore a stable broadcast. It's not about faking. It's about remembering. Remembering that you are already the version you're becoming. The frequency exists now. You only need to stay loyal to it. This is vibrational endurance. Emotional stamina. Frequency loyalty. The world calls it patience. But it's more than waiting. It's training yourself to live as your future self before the mirror agrees. And when you do, the field has no choice. It bends. It aligns. It answers. Because reality always follows the most consistent signal. Here's the final key. The most advanced level of creation. You stop waiting for proof. You stop negotiating with the mirror. You collapse the new reflection before it appears. Most people live as reactors. They wait for evidence. They say, I'll believe it when I see it. But the mirror doesn't work that way. It's not designed to convince you. It's designed to confirm you. The masters of reality flip the order. They embody the signal first. They live, feel, and act as if the new timeline is already real. Not because they're faking it, but because they know that in the quantum field, all possibilities exist right now. The universe isn't listening to your wishes. It's reading your consistency. The mirror doesn't bend to bursts of hope or short waves of excitement. It bends to steady frequency. That means, stop waiting for the money before you feel abundant. Stop waiting for the relationship before you feel loved. Stop waiting for success before you walk as someone who already owns it. Because the moment you become the cause, the reflection has no choice but to follow. Yes, it's uncomfortable. The old self screams for validation. The mirror lags behind. But if you can hold steady, if you can live as the new self without needing external applause, you trigger collapse. The old reflection shatters. The new reality stabilizes. This is not attraction. It's selection. You're not begging reality to give you something. You're tuning into the version of yourself that already has it. And once tuned, the field reorganizes around you. So the question becomes razor sharp. Who do you choose to be, regardless of what the mirror says right now? Because the moment you no longer need evidence, the evidence arrives. Be the cause. Be the signal. Be the collapse. The field is waiting for your decision.